All right, folks, I'm just leaving the office. I had a real big presentation today. It actually went very well. Went, I would say, approximately infinitely better than the first one a month ago. So that's a good feeling. Um, Sorry if it's a little loud. I'm backed into this janky spot, so the exhaust is against the wall. We're going to go to Reddit for a topic. This one is, what are your mentoring philosophies / strategies? And I wanted to mention, because I was reading some of the comments on YouTube, someone was saying, hey, by the way, like if you're going to Reddit, would you mind sharing the link like to the post? And I'm very appreciative of this. They said, I know that this channel for you is like low effort, low editing, like that kind of thing. So thank you for acknowledging that. But they said, hey, if you don't mind, could you do it? And I just wanted to say, like, I can try, but what I might encourage viewers to do, because I would appreciate it a lot, is a lot of the topics I'm getting are from the subreddit experienced devs. So if I'm telling you what it is, if I don't get around to putting the link in, if you don't mind, if you want to go to Reddit and get the link, and also if you wouldn't mind, if you'd like to share the video, if you thought it was helpful, to Reddit on the thread, I think that would be awesome. I'm not allowed to do the self-promotion. I don't want to get banned for doing that, but if you watch it and you thought it was helpful, it would mean a lot to me, because I'm doing it for free, and if you help other people watch the videos, it's great stuff. So this person says, I'm an extremely senior dev who has been doing this for longer than I care to mention. While I enjoy working collaboratively on teams and have held team lead roles over the years, I think at heart I'm an IC. One of my favorite parts of the job is burrowing into a meaty development task on my own. That being said, I know that for senior folks, mentorship is an important part of the role, which is true. It's something I'd like to get better at. Towards that end, I'm curious to hear from folks who enjoy it and feel they're good at it. I'd be interested to hear how you think about mentorship, both at the high level, what are your guiding principles, and at boots on the ground, nuts and bolts level. So I think super valuable conversation. And before I do that, reminder for folks, if you want questions answered, please leave them in the comments. I prioritize those over going to Reddit. And if you have something that you want to write more detail about or be kept anonymous, please just reach out to me on social media. My main channel and my social media handle is DevLeader. That main channel has more edited videos, not just me ranting in a car, and there's tutorials for programming and stuff like that. But yeah, if you send me a message on social media, I will keep you anonymous, and I'm happy to try my best to answer your question. Okay, so a little bit about me before I actually explain my perspective on this, because if you're new to the channel, you might say, who the hell is this guy to talk about mentorship and, senior dev perspective? And rightfully so. This is the internet, and I am just a random bald dude in a car, which is absolutely fair. So I've been managing engineering teams for just under 13 years at a startup that grew into a mid-sized company, a couple hundred people, from about 7. And I work at Microsoft now as a principal engineering manager. Been doing that for just under 5 years now. So seen some shit and happy to try and talk about it. And a lot of my focus has been this journey from going from an IC to a manager, but from a little bit of a unique path, because early on, like very early, I was put into a management role, but I was also an IC at the same time. So, literally a few months into my full-time work outside of university and internships, I was made a manager and was still an IC at the same time. And I did that for about 8 years. Right, so trying to ride that line between IC work, trying to figure out how to be a good manager. So that's a little bit about me, so you understand why I'm sort of excited to talk about this, and maybe sort of to give some background for where these experiences are going to come from. So I guess I wanted to start talking about, maybe let's back up and say that I think I agree for senior level roles, the expectation will be, like, I don't want to say every single place, but there is an expectation that you should be able to help mentor and help, sort of the people around you, right? There's more junior people You want to be in a position, and you're likely expected to be in the position where you can give them assistance, you can help them grow, that kind of thing. Now, not to the same level where like an engineering manager is going to be responsible for that person's career progression, but sort of like when you're becoming more senior, the scope of your impact in enabling other people to be successful like that, that is an expectation, like I said, for most places. So I think this person is, I think it's a good reflection where they're saying, I've been doing this for a long time. I really just enjoy like the coding part, but I do want to get better at this. So I think it's awesome because I do think it's a big part of the role personally. Now, if we think about guiding principles, and I want to be able to kind of split my thought process between as a senior engineer, so like as a senior engineer versus like me as an engineering manager, where I might draw some of the lines. Oh man, I'm not going to make it through this light. It's a really awkward light, by the way. So it's like there's a green light, but I can't actually get to the other side because I'm going to be stuck in the middle of the intersection when it turns red. And there's a highway. But yeah, I want to make sure that I can think about my responsibility as an engineering manager when it comes to mentorship versus expectations for a senior. But maybe from a philosophy perspective, when I think about mentorship and helping others, I think it involves, it might sound kind of weird, I think it involves like a lot more listening than people might expect. And it's actually kind of like a weird challenge because when you feel like you're in a position where there's an expectation that you're mentoring people, right? Like the expectation is you're helping them. So what do you want to do? Well, you're a software engineer. What are you really good at? You're really good at coming up with solutions. So you're talking with someone, and let me know if this sounds familiar. Someone's talking to you and your brain's like, okay, there's a solution for it, there's a solution for it, there's a solution. You might even do this outside of work. And in fact, I was talking at lunch today with some people that report to me. We were sitting down having lunch together, and we were joking that like one of the guys was saying he's noticed when he has a conversation with his girlfriend, it's like sometimes your girlfriend doesn't want solutions from you. And I said, I have heard this from my wife, and it's funny because my wife is a therapist, and so she understands psychology very well and stuff. And she'll call me out when I'm doing it because she'll be having a conversation with me, and she wants to vent about something. She wants to, kind of get some things off her chest, and she's talking to me. And I'm almost like trying to interject, being like, well, what if you tried, or like, have you thought about, and she's like, look, like, shut up. She's way more polite than that. But, like, I'm not talking to you about this because I'm looking for solutions, right? I'm talking to you about this because I'm trying to express that I have, frustration or, feelings about something. I just want you to listen, right? So don't worry, I promise I'm going somewhere with this. But the idea is like, as software engineers, and I would say probably engineering mindset in general, is that we're often trying to jump to solutions. And I think that when it comes to mentoring people, your brain might be going there a lot. And I certainly don't blame you. But what I would recommend is like, you want to work on being able to listen more. So there's two things, right? Listening and asking questions. And both of those things might feel wildly uncomfortable. And I say that because if you're doing more listening and doing more question asking, neither of those things are coming up with solutions or offering solutions, right? So someone might be talking to you, and maybe this is, you're a senior engineer on a team, and there's someone more junior that's stuck on something, or they're having some challenges with something. So they're talking to you about it, and immediately your head is like, oh, like, have you tried doing this? Have you tried doing that? Right? Whether it's a technical solution or, there's a more junior person that's like, I need help with a design doc, or I don't know how to do it, or they're looking for some help when it comes to collaborating across teams, and immediately your brain is like, here's the solution, here's the solution. You have to practice shutting up, which is very difficult because you want to solve problems, and I totally get it. But a lot of the time when it comes to mentorship, it's not necessarily about you solving the problem immediately. And I'll say it again, when it comes to things like mentorship and coaching, I would say, this person's swerving all over the road. That's not what has to do with mentorship and, and coaching, but it's very distracting. When it comes to mentorship and coaching, it's not about solving a problem immediately. And I think what's more important is getting people to think through things. Now, when I was saying like more listening and more question asking, let's drill into that a little bit more, right? So the listening part is like, you need to give people some space to be able to talk through things, right? That's important. The other part about listening is so that you can actually understand a little bit better, right? Because sometimes, especially if you're newer to this, someone will be telling you something and you're like, okay, I see the problem on the surface. And the challenge is that you're seeing the problem on the surface, and because you're not spending enough time listening and trying to understand it better, you're missing what the actual sort of root of what's going on is, right? So I'm trying to think of a good example of this. Oh man, come on, buddy. Get out of this lane. Get out. They're trying to move over lanes and they don't understand how to merge. What's a good example? Come on, brain, do the thing. Someone is complaining. Okay, let's go with this. This is going to be a little rough, but please bear with me. You're trying to help someone that's a little bit more junior, and they're trying to work through a project, right? And they're expressing to you that they have concerns around a deadline being met. They're like, oh, this deadline's coming up, I'm falling behind. And like, they're talking to you about this in a way where they're like, they're making it sound like I need to move faster, like I don't know how I'm going to convey this. And if you don't listen more and give them some space to talk, and you're like, oh, like, let me just try to propose a solution, right? And if you don't ask them questions and get them to explain more, again, giving them more time to talk through things, you might not have the opportunity to uncover that they might be blocked by someone else as an entirely different dependency. And here you are trying to propose solutions that really don't help move anything in the right direction. So we had to move some lanes. So you want to make space for people to talk, and I would encourage you that when you're in this position where you're like, I want to blurt out the answer, like I want to tell them what to do. Instead, ask someone a question. And it's hard. It's really hard, because instead of saying the answer is X and blurting it out, you have to ask them another question. Now, you can do a little bit of steering with the questions, and depending on who you're coaching and trying to navigate things with, sometimes some steering is necessary, right? Like, you might have a solution in mind and you're going to steer them in that direction, but ultimately, if you give space to people and you ask them questions, a lot of the time, you've heard about like rubber duck debugging, right? It's a very similar thing. People will come up with solutions on their own, right? People are smart. People are smart. Sometimes they need to talk through things though, and when you're asking them questions and getting them to express their thoughts, and like, so in this example, I don't know if this is going to be a good example to continue, but it was like, okay, so the deadline's coming up and you feel like you're really concerned about how you're going to either shift gears on this or report that you're failing or whatever. Like, okay, so like, what have you been working on, right? And so I've been working on this part of the project. I'm responsible for this. Oh, okay. Like, and so are there other dependencies? Are there other pieces that are being built here? Yeah, well, there's this team and that team and, someone else from our team working on these parts. Oh, okay. And like, are any of those pieces that people are working on, like, do you depend on any of those? Oh, well, yeah, like this person on this other team, like, I definitely need them to land their code. Oh, okay. Like, interesting. So are you blocked on them right now? Or like, or they've landed their stuff? No, I'm definitely blocked. Oh, okay. Well, have you had a conversation with them yet about the progress? Well, no, because they said that they were going to be done by this date and they're not. So like, I mean, it's kind of their problem, right? Like they're holding us all back. Okay, so you're telling me you're blocked on this person and they had promised a date, but they haven't delivered, and you're kind of stuck in this situation, but the reality is it's their problem because they didn't land it. Right? Like, so you get people to kind of uncover things for themselves. I realize I'm giving you a very contrived example, so sorry for making it sound like bullshit, but I hope you get the idea. It's like you get people to explain what's going on, and then you get to this point where like, have you tried, or what have you tried so far? If you've watched my other videos, this is a very common thing where I'll say, like, when you're getting people to do problem solving, what have you tried so far? Right? So in this example where it's like, well, no, I mean, they were supposed to deliver and they didn't. And it's like, well, have you tried talking to them about it? And maybe they have, right? Maybe it's like, yes, I've tried. Okay, and how did that conversation go? Well, they said it was delayed by a week. Okay, and like, when you keep drilling into things like this, you might realize that there's an underlying problem. Like maybe someone in this case is like, that's a more senior developer and they don't feel like they have the I don't know, authority or whatever to be able to kind of question them. But like, hey, look, if someone's blocking your work, like you need to bring visibility to it somehow. This goes to another conversation that's around ownership, right? If you're responsible and you need to take ownership of something, if someone's blocking you, like bring visibility to it, right? It doesn't mean you have to like throw them under the bus and be like, this asshole's not doing their work. But like, hey, look, I can't do my job effectively because I am blocked by this, right? But you can help others kind of come to this realization through asking questions back to them. There's not a lot of training that happens with managers generally. And it's unfortunate because when you get into management, or even if you're just trying to do a better job mentoring people, I feel like there's not, like, I haven't seen ever like formal training at a company that's like, we know that going from mid-level to senior is going to involve more mentorship, so here's some formal training to do it. We just kind of like expect people get good at it. Right? Just do it. Just be good at it. But it's like, it's not easy. It's not straightforward. Like I've been doing this for almost 13 years and I'm still like, I know there's better ways to do things than what I'm doing. There's always room for improvement. And I can tell you for damn sure that how I approach this stuff is different and probably significantly improved to when I started. Because yeah, I still have a lot of room to grow and improve, but man, compared to when I started, I definitely have learned at least a couple of things. Like how to turn on my lights when I drive so I'm not like that asshole. We need the 360 cam for this kind of stuff. So we don't get a lot of training this way, and I would say that at Microsoft, I was fortunate enough where they do like these, sometimes there's like required learnings and stuff, and sometimes, to be honest, it's like some virtual learning thing where I'm like, okay, like I don't have a choice, I have to go click through this thing and read, and I'm like, I get it, they're trying to train us on whatever, it's like a very simple like security thing or whatever, and it doesn't, you know that it's like it's mandated for everyone and it doesn't feel like there's like sustenance to it, but you understand it's important. We had a coaching one a couple of years back for managers, and I remember thinking like, oh, here we go, like some mandatory like training. Going through my head is, I bet you it's gonna be bullshit. Because I have never seen training like this that was good, let alone like any training. I'm just expecting it to be crappy, right? Like we have to check a box to say we're gonna train people on this stuff or provide an opportunity for it. And I'll be completely honest, I thought it was awesome. And I don't think that in that training was necessarily anything like fundamentally groundbreaking, except for how this person was framing like almost like the whole meta point of the training itself. And he kept saying like, this is for managers, but this is applicable for mentorship, I believe. He kept saying, be lazy. Managers need to be lazy. And he's doing it obviously because it sounds funny, it's memorable, that's why I'm reciting it right now. But like, you gotta be lazy, And what he's not saying is truly that you gotta be lazy and not do any work. But his entire point was like, when it comes to coaching people, the idea of being lazy is like, stop jumping in to go solve people's problems. If you're being lazy, you're sitting back, right? You're giving people space. Like, so again, the whole point was for it to be memorable. And I thought the framing was super helpful, because now in my mind, if I know I have to go into a challenging conversation, or I know that someone's looking for some extra guidance, I need to be able to coach and mentor on something. In the back of my mind, I have this thing that's like, be lazy, right? You know that you want to go try and solve this person's problem. Be lazy. Now, I might also be trying to solve the problem, because that's really hard to turn off, but at least I'm not going to jump in and tell them, here's how you go do it. Okay, so spent a lot of time talking about roughly the same thing because I'm really good at rambling, but I hope that part's pretty clear. There's a couple more things, and I've talked about this at length in other videos, but I'll say it again because I kind of hinted at it earlier. But in general, when we're talking about coaching and mentoring and stuff like that, I was giving you sort of like really high level kind of generic thoughts just now. Something else I would mention that's maybe a little bit more, I don't know, tangible, is like when people, and full disclosure, I've literally made entire vlog entries on this, probably more than one, but when people are coming to you for help specifically, right? Like, I need help on this thing. This is a lot more applicable, especially for individual contributors, less for like team leads. I mean, it'll still happen in tech leads, but especially as like an individual contributor and you're just trying to help other people. I'm stuck on this problem, right? Like, I need help, and the one piece of advice that I recommend for you is to ask people what they've done so far instead of just jumping in to give them the answer. This is a very simple cue for you, and honestly, if you have been in a position where you are feeling overwhelmed because people keep coming to you for help, and the way that you're trying to get out of it is you're like, okay, just like move out of the way, let me solve it for you, let me just give you the answer, you will find that this problem doesn't get better. In fact, it just likely gets worse. And the reason that it gets worse is that because people have learned, and not maliciously, and not because you intended it to be this way, but people have learned if they need a problem solved, they just come tap you on the shoulder and it's going to get solved very fast. It's like a path to least resistance. So what I say in these scenarios when you're providing mentorship to people sort of at the more basic level, which is just helping them kind of navigate and solve problems, is like, stop giving them answers, and it might feel a little bit more painful in the short term, but ask them, what have you tried so far? Get them to try things first, right? Push back on them, get them to try things. You can point them in a direction, and they might come back with more questions, but over a period of time, this strategy will absolutely, I mean, I can't say with 100% confidence, but I feel pretty good about it. My experience over a little bit of time, over time, this will get better because they're forced to learn. And I get that in the short term, it feels like ass, right? I've literally felt like at work, I'm drowning in helping people. Not because I'm so amazing, but there was a point in time where for a particular code base, I happened to have the most knowledge. And it wasn't a great code base. I wrote it. But because there were other people that needed to navigate it, they were like, hey, like, how would you go approach this? Or where can I find that? And we had more junior developers. Right, so how do I do this in C#? And I would spend my entire day, literally my entire workday, just going around to people's desks and helping them. And then when everyone would leave, I would do my work. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, I keep helping people and it keeps getting worse. And then the answer, especially if you're like putting your hands on people's keyboards, don't. And if you're remote, you know, if someone's like, help me, and you're like, okay, I'll share my screen and show you, don't. Hey, person I'm helping, you share your screen, you're going to drive, right? I'm going to give you some guidance, but you're going to drive this. And it might feel pretty painful, but I think that it's a good strategy long term. So please try it out. Let's kind of talk about more philosophical things, I guess, because I'm getting close to home. And I feel like, I don't know if I had concrete ideas on this before getting into my little rant here, but I feel like maybe there's a couple of philosophical things when it comes to mentoring that I'd like to touch on. Maybe something to think about is like, I want to say that, you know, especially because this person that wrote this Reddit post was like, they do enjoy the code, right? Like that's where they enjoy spending their time. I actually think it took me a very long time to feel fulfillment from helping others in like an obvious way, which is maybe sounds kind of funny because I think there's probably inherently something that feels good about helping other people, probably for most humans. But when you're used to being an individual contributor and you know that like the more, you know, bugs I'm fixing or features I'm delivering, like those are the things that feel like are moving the progress. It took me a long time to realize like that by helping other people, the impact I might be having is greater. It just looks different. It's less like directly tangible. So this is just my reminder for folks that are like, yeah, but like it's such a pain in the ass to like be helping juniors or whatever else, right? Like I just want to look at code. I just want to be able to have focus time. Like I understand, especially if that's the part that you really enjoy. I totally get it. I'm not here to say like that's a wrong thought that you're not allowed to enjoy like heads down time and get shit done. But like if you're feeling like there's no impact from what you're doing, I don't know. I don't have like a good metaphor. It's like planting a seed or something and then watching it grow. I don't have a metaphor that's not super cheesy like that, but I think that it actually lets you scale your impact, because when you're one person writing code, you might be able to code some awesome stuff and that's great. And you might enjoy it and that's great. But when you can start having an impact on other individuals, it's almost like multiplicative, I guess, is how I would think about that. And I don't know, like I feel like it just took me a really long time before I actually started to feel that way. So I'm saying this not to like, to say, hey, you better feel this way. You better, you know, get on board with mentoring people and love it. I'm just saying that I understand if you're feeling some friction or you're feeling like it's not fulfilling or rewarding or it feels like a distraction. I can absolutely resonate with that. But it did take me a long time before I started to realize that. And for me, Like I said, I was an IC and a manager for 8 years. And it was probably in the 6th going into 7th year of doing it where I started to realize, like, hey, if I spend less time actually coding, I'm actually able to have greater impact. Now, there's more things aside from just mentoring people, but that was part of it. So now even at Microsoft, right, like I have my own team that I manage. I still volunteer for like programs like early in career mentorship circles. And that's because at this point I actually, like, selfishly, it's like very fulfilling to be able to help other people. So it just took a long time for me to have that realization. So I encourage you, like, try it, stick with it for a little bit before you give up and say it's just frustrating, because I think it's helpful. So let's see. I don't know if I'm ready to summarize. I still got a few minutes left. You're going to be stuck with me unless you turn it off right now. But I think that listening is very important. It's difficult to do, but giving people space to talk is helpful. Gives you this opportunity to ask questions and listen more. And a few reasons for this are to uncover more information, get to the root of what's going on. And this way, instead of you just blurting out answers and trying to solve problems, you might understand the problem better. You can do a little bit of guiding through your question asking. But ultimately, you'll find that people oftentimes, they come up with solutions for their problems. And I think that can be very helpful. And it's very powerful. Because if you just tell people what to do, I think that's not like a super effective strategy. And then one of the other things I said was around, like, letting other people, like, don't put your hands on the keyboard, ask people what have they done so far, kind of, what's the saying, like, teach a man to fish and he'll have food for life, kind of. I don't know what it is, but you know what I'm talking about. Don't pretend like you don't. But that's the idea, right? If you're just giving people answers, then not super effective. Might feel like it in the short term. I think that's it for that, though. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I want to add. I don't know if this person had anything else. I didn't really. This is one of those examples where I didn't scroll through and read a bunch of answers. That might be it. So stick with me for a couple more minutes because I'm just getting home. Or leave. It's cool. But if you're going to leave, leave me a comment at the same time. What are your tips or strategies for mentoring others? Do you find it fulfilling? Do you find that you're forced to do it? Is it just something you do because my boss said so, or because I need to get promoted? Or is this something you kind of like discovered, like, I like doing this and I do find it helpful and it is rewarding? Be curious to know. By the way, when you share different perspectives like this, keep in mind, like, other people read this kind of stuff and, like, that could help them. That's why I'm making these videos, right? Like, I'm just here blabbing about my experiences. It's kind of cool. People watch and I appreciate it. But you can be part of that, right? Leave comments. Let people know what your experiences are. I'm just sharing one view. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's... I wanted to see if I could share maybe some perspective on the receiving end of being the mentee. And part of me is like, I don't want to... I'm like struggling to think of an example, and I'm like, that's going to sound weird if I'm like, oh, no one's ever helped me or no one's ever been a mentor to me. But I'm trying to think, like, I need to start categorizing, like, are those good, positive experiences that I want to talk about and, like, extract, like, a meta point from, or were they maybe not effective? I don't even know if I can categorize them. Okay, maybe if I reflect on some, whether it was my I don't know, like in internships or anything else. At least for me, what I found was very helpful was like I had people that would mentor me that would give me space to like, they didn't leave me stranded, let's put it that way, but they gave me space to like explore things, right? And like I think that was helpful for me. So what I mean by that, and this is actually, I'm thinking specifically about a couple of internships I had. You know, what I don't know what you would call them, like my intern buddy or my manager, I don't even know what the reporting structure was. Let's just call them my manager as an intern. They wouldn't tell me exactly what to go right in terms of code. They wouldn't say like, hey, there's a bug and like, here's the lines of code to go fix it. Just like, you have to be the person to go type it. Right? So they gave me space to be able to say like, here's what we're trying to achieve. And like, we trust you. And what was nice is like, I might be wrong the first time, but people gave me this safe place to be like, look, like we're gonna give you some guidance here, and like it's okay, like go try, right? And I think that I really appreciated that because that's where I was learning, that's where I was getting experience, and it never felt like it wasn't supported. Never felt like people were basically just saying like, here's the code, you go type it yourself. But it's like they trusted me. And I think sometimes giving people that kind of opportunity where it's like, look, like I believe that you can go do this, and if you're getting stuck, you know, here to support you, but you know, you're like an adult, like go try. And it felt that yeah, I think the best word is trust. I felt like people trusted me to go try something. And I feel like if it would have been that they didn't trust me, and every time they were having a conversation with me about like work I had to do, if it was like, oh boy, like don't know if you're going to be able to do this, but I don't think that would have been as effective. So I just think that's something I really appreciated. So something to think about when you're helping others. But I'll wrap it up here. Thanks for watching. Remember, mentoring people, very helpful. And I'll see you next time. Take care.